Thor's hammer Mjolnir is a lot more powerful than your average hammer as it gives its holder incredible power. There's just one catch. Not just anyone can lift the hammer. The rule that is inscribed on the hammer is pretty simple. Whosoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor. So whether or not anyone is able to lift Mjolnir has nothing to do with their strength but rather their worthiness. This also means that Thor is not the only one who can lift his hammer, as the determination of someone's worthiness can shift from one moment to the next, and even Thor has failed to prove himself worthy enough on some occasions and lost the hammer as a result. This has given many other characters the chance to pick up Mjolnir, and whether they did so after proving themselves worthy or only managed to do so thanks to trickery, here are 9 superheroes who have lifted Thor's hammer. Captain America is all about honesty and doing the right thing, and it shouldn't really come as a surprise that with his good heart and unwavering moral standard, he has proved himself worthy to lift Mjolnir on more than one occasion already. In both instances, the Avengers were in some serious trouble facing huge threats that left Thor incapacitated, so that Cap had to step in. The first time he simply returned the hammer to the God of Thunder, which as mentioned before didn't work for Superman, so it seems like even comic books aren't free from continuity errors. The second occasion arose during a battle when the captain snagged the hammer after his trademark shield had been destroyed and used Mjolnir to gather his fellow Avengers so they could defeat their enemy, the Serpent. The most basic function of a hammer is to smash something or pound something into place, and when you think about smashing, the first superhero that comes to mind is obviously the green-skinned giant humanoid, Incredible Hulk. And since he is one of the physically strongest heroes who can crush and destroy and lift and toss pretty much everything, fans obviously started wondering whether Hulk is stronger than the God of Thunder, and if he would be strong enough to lift Thor's hammer. Luckily, Stan Lee decided to answer this question when he interwove the years-long debate into the comic books. So in Journey into Mystery, Thor himself got into an argument over whether or not he was stronger and more powerful than Hulk. In order to settle the debate, he asked his father Odin to remove the worthiness spell surrounding Mjolnir for a few minutes, so they would be able to determine who is stronger between Thor and Hulk. Unfortunately, Thor had to discover that the green giant was absolutely strong enough to lift the hammer, which didn't really come as a surprise to most fans. However, the question of whether or not the Hulk would be worthy enough to lift Mjolnir with the enchantment is still waiting to be answered. While the big Justice League of America / Avengers crossover was decades in the making, there was also a short series in the 1990s that pitted classic characters from Marvel and DC against each other to see who would win in a battle. In this series, Wonder Woman fought X-Men's Storm, but prior to the fight, she got her shot with Mjolnir. Thor had lost his hammer in his own battle with DC's Captain Marvel, and Wonder Woman was the one who found it and picked it up easily. Although the additional power she got thanks to Thor's hammer would have easily gotten her the victory against Storm, the honor that made Wonder Woman so worthy to be able to lift the hammer also made her too noble to fight with such an obvious advantage. So instead of making short work of her opponent, she decided to go into battle without Mjolnir in order to have a fair fight with Storm. Unfortunately, being noble and honorable doesn't help in a fight though, and in the end it was Storm who came out on top. Awesome Android, aka Awesome Andy, is an android created by an evil inventor called the Mad Thinker. Built as a servant and an underling, Awesome Andy was created to blindly follow the Mad Thinker's orders, but was also designed to absorb the abilities and talents of others in order to become more powerful, which turned out to be an unfortunate side effect for the inventor, as it also made the android sentient. As a result, Awesome Andy was able to think on his own, freeing himself from the control of his creator, and his ability to copy any quality or talent he came into contact with also meant that he was able to absorb what makes Thor worthy of lifting his hammer, his purity of heart. Because of that, Awesome Andy was able to pick up Mjolnir, and experiencing Thor's sense of justice is also what created the android's wish to become independent and led him to seek justice for himself. It took DC Comics and Marvel a long time to realize their idea of a crossover, with negotiations starting back in 1979. However, when they couldn't come to an agreement, the project ended up being shelved for years, and it wasn't until 2003 that the limited Justice League of America / Avengers comic book series was published. Luckily, it didn't disappoint, and it turned out that the long wait had been worth it. During the series, Superman not only managed to get his hands on Captain America's shield, but also Thor's hammer, making for a pretty spectacular cover to the 4th issue. Superman proved himself worthy to pick up Mjolnir and deliver an important blow to the enemy, but couldn't lift the hammer anymore when he tried to give it back to Thor later on in the issue. As the series writer Kurt Busiek explained, the worthiness to lift up the hammer is not an inherent quality, but can actually change from one moment to the next. So while Superman was trying to defeat the enemy, he had a worthy goal, which in turn made him worthy to lift the hammer, whereas simply handing Mjolnir back to its owner didn't count as a worthy enough goal. Deadpool, aka Wade Wilson, is a mercenary with the superhuman ability of an accelerated healing factor and physical prowess, and he is probably one of the most popular superheroes thanks to his tendency to talk and joke constantly, including breaking the fourth wall for humorous effects and running gags. But you might be surprised to hear that he once got his hands on Thor's hammer, since he doesn't exactly seem like someone who would be able to lift Mjolnir. The whole thing was set up by Thor's mischievous adopted brother Loki, of course, who managed to manipulate Deadpool into stealing the hammer while Thor was on a heroic mission. When the God of Thunder dropped his hammer, Deadpool was quick to find it in the chaos, taking it along on his usual misadventures, including getting some fast food, playing festival games, and batting around some baseballs mid-game. While Thor transformed into his human alter ego after losing the object that gives him his godlike powers, Deadpool was suddenly wearing a cape. However, with the entire thing being orchestrated by Loki, you can usually count on something being not quite right, and in this case, it eventually turned out that Deadpool was actually walking around with a false Mjolnir, created by Loki, which gave Deadpool nothing more but the illusion of Thor's powers and caused a lot of trouble for everyone. Meanwhile, the real hammer was still lying exactly where Thor had dropped it and had simply been made invisible by chaos-loving Loki. Although Storm shares the ability to manipulate the weather with the God of Thunder, this is not the reason why she was able to lift Thor's hammer. Instead, it was once again Loki who decided to have a little fun and create a similar hammer called Stormcaster that he gave to Storm as part of his scheme to ascend the Asgardian throne. This hammer gave Storm powers similar to Thor's, but Loki surely didn't anticipate that she would reject Stormcaster. Years later, Storm came to hold the hammer again as she battled with Thor, but once again she gave up power willingly. Instead of harming Thor, Storm only grabbed his hammer so she could use it to destroy Stormcaster, thus proving herself worthy to lift Mjolnir by giving up incredible power twice. We first met Vision, a humanoid robot in the film Avengers Age of Ultron, where he made a lasting impression after casually picking up Thor's hammer and handing it to him. This little twist is unique to the MCU, as Vision's comic book counterpart has never been able to lift the hammer. While the moment served as a gag in the movie, it also had the purpose of showing that Vision was trustworthy when there was no other proof for that yet. Part of the reason why Vision was able to pick up Mjolnir was that he is a robot, and just like Awesome Andy, he does not follow the same rules as the human heroes. However, this also means that despite being able to lift the hammer, it doesn't give Vision the full powers of its true owner. Being the god of mischief, Loki is usually the one who messes things up for everyone around him, including his brother in an attempt to become more powerful. He has been jealous of Thor since they were children and had already tried just about everything to get his hands on Mjolnir, or at least get it away from Thor, when he finally managed to achieve his main goal. After becoming the god of heroism and truth instead of his usual mischief and evil thanks to an event called the Inversion, Loki becomes a new Avenger while Thor in turn becomes a villain. As a result, Loki also finally becomes worthy of Thor's hammer, which he finds out in the middle of a battle with his brother. Unfortunately for Loki, the inversion spell is undone during the fight, and he ends up losing Mjolnir to Thor once again.